recording. So this is a second session on the fascinating subject of bringing Islam forward. Islam is people, but it's not about ordinary people, not the mass of people. It's about people, the people. The Sufis speak about them as the Rajul, and this is knowledge. It's to imagine that every person is like a beacon of light. Okay, and that they illuminate. You remove these people, and everything enters into, it descends to the highest possible level. You know, and there has been a decline. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the peak of existence, and since then there has been a decline, an up and down decline. So a decline, but it's not just linear, it's ups and downs and ups and downs until the end of the world, which is indicated by the fact that we are living in the times of the last of the prophets. So this is end of time. When, whoever says when or answers that question, he's a fool and he's a liar. But to say that tasawwuf is to do with people is to highlight the fact that individually we represent that enlightenment, the beacon of light, to remind people about how this affair is about. And when it comes to the day in which we are living in, which is definitely a time of darkness, like we've never seen before, a little bit of light shines larger than when the room is full of light. So even despite of the little, there is a lot to do. And my Shaykh used to say, do not curse your time. Do not blame the things. Look at if we were living in the times of Umar ibn al-Khattab, because they had their challenges too. Ours is of a different kind, and the task reserved for the people of this age is enormous. Islam has become a stranger to the people. The people don't know what it is, and I know this sounds like a horrible thing, but I'm not talking about some kind of hidden secret word that has been lost. I'm talking about the main issues. The fact that Islam is law, for example, that you cannot have a Sharia without law, that you cannot have another legal frame in which the Sharia represents just a tiny little section. That is absurd. But that Islam has brought to us by the only authority to make laws, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the deen. To restore it is to restore something that is naturally around us. Allah has created the world bil haq. And so it's like everything which is under the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to this tune. To go in favor of this tune is like somebody swimming in a river in the direction of the water. You make one stroke and you advance 10 meters. Kufr is exactly the opposite. They have to, stroke 10 times in order to advance 1 meter. Our affair is blessed, that's the meaning, and is guided. And is guided on account of a singularity. It's not to follow what other people do. It's to follow what Allah says. Now that sense, but isn't that the same? Don't we get from... Look, to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a mental effort. Fikr doesn't help you. Fikr compromises. Fikr has to make sense. It has to make sense in a world that doesn't make sense. You have to accommodate something that you yourself, as you pointed out at lunchtime, is we are not there ourselves. And if I have to do it on account of what is logical and valid to me, I will be misguided. I have to do, therefore, on account of what is possible and what is decided and what is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on every account, knowing that this is the best possible option. And thus, the meaning of Islam as submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the question that we are dealing with is the question of riba. On account of how many things are forbidden, it just represents one of many. But on account of what it represents, the way in which Allah has spoken about it, and the transcendence that it has in our time, it is the number one issue. It's not the one that you can say, okay, we deal that later. It's because we are busy, if look, let's put right first the eating of pork because the gelatin of certain things contains still. That is not the issue. It doesn't mean you negate it. It is still an issue, but nothing in relation to what is first. If you go to a city, this is Muli al-Arabi Darkawi, and you find that the people are leaning on zina, you strengthen. You put all your strength on the question of zina. If you go to a city where everybody's drinking, you become hard on the question of drinking. In the day today, the world of riba has become a religion. So what does it mean, religion? That it has been legislated that the argument of riba is a good thing, is the law of every single country that has a constitution.
All of them except for one.
Is religion, the way we understand it. If no, religion is something to do with belief in some greater authority that is up there, etc., etc. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. Not the Muslims either. We don't believe in that kind of character. Is everything.
Yeah.
He is not somewhere independent flying in the air.
Yeah.
It's the reality. Everything is Allah. There is nothing other than Allah. Now, when you look at the world, you say, but this is what I see. Yeah, but that's what you see. But that's not the reality. And this is wisdom. That discrimination at the beginning of wisdom. So imagine, you are dealing with a world that it is not what it looked like. Okay? The forces, what is strong and what is weak, is totally messed up on account of the dependence of the individuals, how we have turned into these individuals of today. And here is one man, and singularity is the issue, the one man that is capable of looking straight without these connotations, without these influences, which is the influences of life. Okay? The things that you do and you have to do in order to survive and navigate throughout this world. You have to abstract yourself from it. You have to abstract yourself from yourself. For example, is riba is forbidden. And you can say that with the strength, the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like a lion. Like a lion. And by the way, this is what gets you through. To be able to say that sentence with truth. That's your passport. You don't have to worry about websites or anything. It's you. You saying riba is haram and I'm here to fight it. When you say that with sincerity, the people will understand. And this is the only strength that you have. The authority given to you. Because you are not speaking by yourself. You're speaking on account of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you speak on account of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are a lion. You are not Mazin. You are a lion. You have an authority that you, even yourself, you get shocked. And that is what moves you through. The question of riba is not a contract anymore. It used to be a contract. So it's kind of the people are charging 2% because a double transaction, that means this and that. It was a contract. Now it's a system. Now it's everywhere. It has been legalized. It has entered into the entire system of how you collect goods, what you pay, the money that you use, the debt that, even though it sounds abstract, national debt, it is in everything, affects everything that you do. The taxes that you have to pay, they are enforced because this is validated. There is no national debt if there was no tax capacity. And this tax capacity is enforced precisely by that need. It's kind of one embellish each other. There is no, Islam is a system of liberation of the three evils. Usury, monopoly, which is far bigger than one imagines, and taxation. When Islam came into the world, it was a force of liberation. The people went through cities after cities, liberating the people. They say, what do you mean? You don't have to pay taxes here? And the people in this age, they say, no, but look at these poor dhimmis, they have to pay jizya. Jizya? Not even the most liberated individual who live in the middle of the wilderness pay less taxes than the people of the dhimmis. They were totally free. So a small amount of nothing per head, incomparable to what you have to pay anywhere in the West or anywhere in the world. In fact, even our zakat is cheaper than what the ordinary people have to pay. And this is only to the Muslims. We have to pay. So, because it's a system, you have to respond with the system. And here is the key. You have to create a science, a complete science of what is muamalat. It is not enough just to say gold, look at paper money, is disgusting, etc. That doesn't help you. It helps if you're in a coffee shop discussing with your friends with no intent of any time doing anything about it. What changes you and makes you a rajul is that you say, and this is not a contract that you give to any other man. This is a contract you do with Allah. I am here to fulfill what you have ordered. I made that contract with him. And anyone who wants to do this affair has to trust it. This is a contract you make with him. It's, look, I'm yours. I belong to you. I don't need any signs more because you have already granted me enough. I need your guidance without your guidance, but I belong to you. I belong to you. In that condition, then you will say nothing but signs. You will say nothing but the people who need proofs and proofs and proofs and proofs, they will never get them. But the man who's satisfied, the person who is grounded, that person, he will recognize the presence of Allah everywhere. Now, your job is to articulate that science. That science is easier than 5th grade mathematics, because the Sharia is meant for everybody to be understood. If you find yourself speaking a language that is too complicated, it means you are complicating the things. It's simple. It's a science that is embedded by a person that is free from any conditioning. And the condition is approval by men, success in this world. The success is already there. It's already there. When you see disasters, like for example, you come out into the street, and I can bear to see the people either with these pieces of paper just holding onto them like they are God, pieces of gold, when they are not even money. With a piece of gold at least has something. This is nothing. It's totally controlled, mathematically controlled, but they cannot see it. And it's what you said, the other day, mercy upon these people. Yes, I have mercy upon them. Those who say this is Allah's deen, they are my enemies. Okay? Because they are lying. They are liars on something you cannot lie about. The kuffar still has, you can still talk to them. Look, it sounds ironical, but it's the truth. There are more people in the United States who believe that the US dollar is a fraud than in Saudi Arabia. What happened to our people? That we have become more dependent on this than anybody else. Okay. There are some of the states in the United States who have declared gold legal tender. Yes, some states have taken that step. They still don't know how to articulate it because the laws doesn't let them. In order to come up, they say the Constitution allows them and all that. The argument, if you want to find out. But it has been overpassed by other laws that they have already totally wiped out these original idea of a free money. And we have evidence from people who have moved into this direction, like, for example, Liberty Dollar. I don't know whether you remember these guys, but you were too young. But if you look at the history of these people, they all ended up in jail. The only thing these people were doing is minting silver coins for the people of America. And they ended up in jail. Dr. Jackson, who was a neurologist, who created e-gold, the first digital payment system. When internet came into the picture, he immediately understood the power here is to get gold and to digitalize it and then use it as a means of payment. He was using software that already existed. He was so successful, he ended up in jail with all his assets taken. We took from him and we developed our software of Dinar in collaboration with them. We just adapted it slowly to our necessities, and we made the decision of not putting a penny in anywhere but a Muslim country. We decided Dubai will be the best, and that's what saved us. We couldn't grow, but it showed that it works. Digitally, you have all the technology to do it. We had 35 sues showing by different courts everywhere in the world,
35
including
lawsuits.
Switzerland. The military of Switzerland wrote an article in their magazine saying that we were supporting Al-Qaeda. We counter-sue them, and they have to back down because, thanks God, we knew everybody who had an account. Because we knew we couldn't go any further. All this thing was, first of all, to the terrorists. Second, to put a question mark. Because for the time being, you go to Dinar and you find all these articles. You know, Al-Qaeda, money laundering, jail, this, suing, this and the other. In Switzerland, nobody will open an account after this record is already established. Because when the court forced them to make a retract, what they had said, it was an article of this size. In the article that says that we retract this thing, the article was 2 pages, reduced to this.
Of course.
That's how they do it. And they are very efficient on the matter, and they can close it out. So we saw that this is the way forward. We saw that there is more people in the West who understand the matter. It is much easier. If I wanted to, I had lots of people. When gold money was created, a man called James Turk, who created it, he was my friend. Okay, we exchanged ideas of how to get this matter forward. We discussed the African Union and everything and what can be done, etc. He said, I'm going to go legal, I'm going to make the money with what is allowed, and that's it. And what he has is a payment system, but it doesn't work as a payment system. It's just, it's an investment that has the option of transferring money from one another, but nothing close to what we were trying to do, which was to put it on the shops. Erbakan came in and he said, the currency of the Muslims, coup d'etat, and he was thrown out. We realized we can reach the prime ministers. Speaking with the ministers is useless. They're too scared. But the people who are responsible for the changes, they can understand. And then we went to Mahathir and we sent dinars. I sent at least 2 or 3 sets of dinars to Mahathir. Every time he went to Europe, I sent there with 2 dinars, and this is the currency of Islam. Eventually, he received us in Kuala Lumpur. One meeting that was scheduled for 45 minutes, it lasted 2 hours and a half. He opened an Dinar account in front of us. He bought a book online, and he saw it. He was clever enough to understand. But then he handed it over to the central bank, and the central bank had no intention of bringing this matter forward. Everything fell down. Then he had a heart attack, and then he just disappeared. He didn't die, but he retired in the middle of the thing. One, it was a coup, another was a heart attack. But then he came back. He spoke about it, but he didn't push it forward. In the meanwhile, Gaddafi spoke about the gold dinar too, and the gold dinar, the currency of the Muslims, and blah 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 blah. But he never did anything. So there was a resistance. There was a logical resistance. Now, if you put yourself into that position, you understand what it is. If you don't, you just simply hit yourself against a wall all the time. The machine that we call the state is embedded in paper money. The system of finance that is represented by central bank that finances everything the government does. And the paper money that is the payback to the banking system who are then capable of expanding, that's fractional reserve banking. That whole banking system and the state is one unit. So then I wrote a book called Government Without the State. And I said, a state is a new formation, is a new entity that is created out of the marriage between central banking and government. If it is new entity, you cannot Islamize. That was my realization. So you have to go back to Khalifa or you have to go back to Amir, but you cannot say Islamic State. Because a state as a European word is already entangled with this thing. So if you, for example, the failure of Hizb ut-Tahrir is when they speak about the Islamic State, go a little bit further. Okay, Khalifa, go a little bit further. They have the Minister of Finance, they have the Minister of this. Out of the enormous challenge that we produced on relation to the gold dinar, then they introduced the gold dinar into their equation, but so wrongly, because they never thought of it for a second. That's just they did it just by copy and paste articles that they were in the internet about gold standard. Gold standard and gold currency is two different things, but they couldn't understand. So we realize that either what we are moving forward is something that nobody has spoken about. And this was back in the 90s when my sheikh was still alive. And the creation of Moravitun and creating a movement that it would respond to this. It was both. Even our own people, okay, on account of being minorities in the Muslim world, totally motivated, but they couldn't move the matter forward. I had to go out. It has to be done in a Muslim country. It cannot do an Islamic revolution in the middle of Spain, in case there was any doubt. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can ask the emir to go a little bit further, but you hit against the wall of the law. Okay? And this is where we went Turkey, and then we went Malaysia, and everything started moving that way. It was very clear to me that if we are going to do anything about it, in my vision, there was 3 countries that count. This is before Mali and all this thing. In those days, this was for me France. You know, that was not Africa, that was France. But in those days, Indonesia, the subcontinent, and Turkey, there were the 2 powerful places where something can happen. Because of Mahathir, I spent more time in Malaysia, which I should have spent in Indonesia. Indonesia was by far better, but I didn't. My mistake. If I have to recall all this thing, I would have done all the effort I did in Kelantan, I would have done it over there. There is far more resources to apply in a country that is virtually ungovernable because it's 60,000 islands. There are too many little corners, autonomies and things that you can handle. Malaysia is too centralized. Never mind, we managed to go in Kelantan and do a number that it was very powerful. But here is the important thing. You can talk about the gold dinar or you can try to activate it. So either you're an actor or you're just passively just speaking about how terrible is capitalism. You leave that part. Step number 1. Second, you want to act. Then in the action, you learn things you couldn't learn before. It's impossible to understand. There is still people obsessed with minting the coins and they think the revolution happens immediately. There is a lot of things that you have to change, and this is the science of muamalat. And it has to be articulated. It has to be articulated in a manner that is comprehensible in the same way that is comprehensible to understand economics. So you can take a book and you can just recreate the state on the basis of what? liberal economy today says. You know, it tells you how you need this and this and this. You can make variation.
It's a sign.
Like Milei, for example, has done variations over the left government of the predecessors. You know Milei, no? In Argentina, is the president of Argentina, and he has made a recreation of the state, but still the state, central bank, paper, banks, etc. He is nevertheless saying he wants to eliminate the central bank, and he wants to give freedom to all the Argentinians to choose the currency they want. You know, it's kind of, but it's still the state. So there are things that, when you get into action, you start seeing little corners, little areas of operation where you can implement, if you have a thesis, bits and pieces of what you want, that they lead you to the next. Because the one thing about muamalat is that if you activate one of the matters, it necessitates the others.
Yeah.
So it's coherent. That's why also, if you only want to do one, but you ignore the others, then you also fail. But if you do one with the understanding of each other's, of all the others, if you do it wholesome, if you have a science, then you know how to do it in a manner that kind of activates the rest. And this is what is the task of this time. Now, I've been writing a book called Manual of Muamalat for the last 20 years. The reason I haven't finished it is because I keep discovering new things. And it's like, now that we have artificial intelligence, like everything has changed. And now that China is in place, everything has changed. And everything that the Sahel has changed also everything. Africa is waking up from in a state of slavery equal to the Arabs, not different, exactly the same. And the only thing is that they have petrol, and they have totally fallen into the hands of the kuffar. The petrol became the backing of the dollar. There's no backing of the dollar except the oil. And that's why the decision of Saudi Arabia to move and to trade with other than the US dollar is so radical. And the world is changing. And just 1 week ago, they published that China is now exporting more than half. No, the total amount of exports in renminbi, the currency of China, the yuan, is now in excess to the exports they do in US dollar. So they have kind of crossed the point. And if you look at the graphics, it's just, the dollar is going down. So the dollar, for the first time, is in a whole century, it has ceased to become, it looks like, it's not going to become the currency of the world. That is so important to you. It's not important if you're having a discussion in the coffee shop with your friend telling him, paper money is disgusting. But if you're an activist, if you're in the move on something, these are everything.
These are miracles.
And that's why I started the conversation by saying, do not define the strategy on the basis of what you can. Because you say, what can I do? Well, I only can do this and this and the other. It's a waste of time. I mean, hopefully one realizes the thing before you're dying. Okay, but that's a complete waste of time. Is if you have to set yourself into looking how Allah is doing this thing. If you see the signs, if you recognize what is happening, you find nothing but indications. Nothing but indications how the thing can happen. And all you have to do is to activate as many as you can. Focus on the ones that they have the greatest possibility of achievement, naturally. But that means nothing to do with your hands. Either you have to develop the skills that they are required in order to fulfill where the gap is. It's like a wall, and there is a crack in the wall. Either no, but we are assaulting the tower, but you have a crack on the wall. Either move the army to the crack.
Mm-hmm.
Don't spend time in the tower. Don't know if we take the tower, yes, but you have a crack already. So when you see these cracks happening everywhere, you have an stupendous capacity to start moving forward. In this affair, you try to open a door and it opens. Sometimes you try to open the door and it closes. If you are not a rajul, then you close the door. It means it doesn't work. Let's go back to, get a job and carry on like everybody. But if you are one of the people, then you say, oh, thanks God this door is closed. Where's the next open? And then you are continuously developing skills that allow you to consolidate projects that they transform the world. And that's the big difference. And that means you. And the subject is nothing. Either I don't have all the skills, neither do I. And I am the one who knows more on the matter at this time. Until you arrive. Okay? I don't know everything, but I know sufficiently. And then you just move into the matter. You occupy the space. And this is how you learn. It's like entering into a jungle. And somebody says, what do we need to go into the jungle? And he starts saying, okay, we need anti-mosquitoes. We need something for the spiders. And we need something to make fire. You need something to cover ourselves. And he ends up with 50 kilos worth of luggage. He can't move. But this is like you take a knife and you go in. And you realize there is no mosquitoes. And when the spider comes, you realize, you find out where it is and you know how to avoid it. And you get a trunk from the thing and you kill it. You take the resources as you move along. You learn in the process of walking. It's just like this. Allah teaches you the deen on account of your wanting to do it. There is a difference between somebody sitting down in a desk and reading books of fiqh, who do not see anything, even if they memorize the entire book. And I can give you so many proofs of somebody who's trying to do this, and with a little he knows far. Because the action is the teaching. Because what you're changing is your attitude. These people sitting out at the desk, they never intended or will intend to transform the system. They just want to kind of find little patterns that they can play with. They don't alter anything. The only thing they do is actually mess the things up. And this is where Islamic banking ends up. It's the practical way. If you want to be practical, become an Islamic banker. I tell you, if you insult them the way I've done, they will offer you, the first thing they're going to happen is that they offer you to become the head of the Islamic Bank of Burkina Faso. No, they will invite you. I'm not kidding. I was invited to become the first Islamic bank in South Africa. They came to me first. And everything I was saying is like Islamic bank is haram. But because I was like this, they said, this is the guy that we want. It's ironic, but of course you cannot fall for that. You have to pursue the thing that Allah, the reward is with Allah. But if you're in the mood, you see the opportunities and you improvise. It's, for example, the public market. Many people say to me, the public market, it is indeed, you cannot charge anything. Okay? But what happens if you, because of the regulations or whatever, you have to charge something? Do it. You have to see the greater good. Don't get stuck in the, it has to be perfect or nothing. Mm-hmm. That's for somebody who's not in the war. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're in the middle of the war, and then you say, but somebody has to take the hill, but 200 people will die in the process. If you know, because we can never lose one, then you lose the battle. You know, it's when you are on the way, it's not that you lessen your purity, but your purity is in the long term, not in the short term. Be radical in the long term, but conservative in how you start moving, rather than being radical on the short term, like putting a bomb onto yourself and blow somebody.
Yeah.
But they are conservative in the long term because that achieves nothing.
Mm.
So it's like, it's not compromising because as I said to many people before, if you need to create a bank in the process, like for example, I suggest to make all the banks, close all the commercial banks, but make the central bank still a bank.
Yeah.
Do it, but don't call it Islamic Bank.
Mm.
Call it the Haram Bank, the Central Haram Bank of Burkina Faso.
Yes. And we could put a mandate on it that it's going to be here 50 years for
Exactly,
development
or
period,
whatever.
and then it will.
And when you enter into there, you say, every transaction you do in this place is completely forbidden. Yeah. That is to be correct. And you use it
Mhm.
for the purpose, for example, when it comes, you cannot cut yourself from international trading.
Mm.
Now, not everybody is going to accept the gold dinar at the beginning. They will increasingly, more people and more people. But what are you going to do? Cut yourself off? You're stupid. Create an institution where the people pay the paper money and you pay back in gold. That institution is going to be halal? No, it's going to be dirty as hell. But do it for the greater benefit. In the understanding that this is only temporary until you are capable to create a market sufficiently where you can close this thing down. If you don't do that, it's like everything has to be perfect. And you cannot do that. We are not talking, we're talking about something so embedded in the economy that is very difficult. Even businessmen will have to adapt.
Mhm.
I mean, what are you going to do with people who export to the United States? There will be one or two. Or what are you going to say to them? You cannot anymore? No, sell the goods. But do it in a manner that, you create, the dollar doesn't enter into the country, but the gold enters into the country. And you keep sending the dollars back to them.
Mhm.
So essentially, the philosophy is, we are Africans, we're ignorant. So we keep the gold. You are sophisticated and clever. You keep all the pay. Yes, you are right. But we haven't arrived yet to your level of stabilization. So keep all the paper for yourself. We're ignorant. We keep all the
We
gold.
want to regress.
All the 60% that we produce, we keep it here.
Yeah.
The hell with them. Use their stupidity in your favor. Another important thing is to be imaginative in terms of getting resources. For example, if you know that there is an asset that is declining, it's the US dollar. It has been declining since the day it was born. If you look at the price of gold against the US dollar over the last 100 years, you see it continued. Okay? So it's going to continue declining. And you have an asset that it is so undervalued that is over the next few years, as it has happened in relation to paper money, it has happened before, it will continue going up. Now, when you have an asset declining and you have an asset that is going up, what you do? You get short in the asset that is declining, that is dollars. You borrow dollars. No, but you borrow dollars. And with the dollars, you buy future gold because it's going to go up. What is future gold? Mining.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy a mine at the price of today, you have the gold that is going to come over the process of the years, increasing in value. Mm-hmm. So get short in gold, get long in gold. Acquire your own mines by borrowing dollars. Don't hesitate. You have a winning position every year better. But if you want to accelerate this curve of decline and this curve of going up, at the same time, add the fact that it will multiply the price of gold and it will decline the price of the dollar. Yeah. Make gold money. So if you have a strategy of making gold money and then you are force more people demanding gold, the price going up, and less people demanding dollars, less price for the dollar, your existing strategy of getting short in dollars and long in gold keeps getting better and better and better and better.
Because the value of the gold that you're now mining has gone up. Yeah.
So here it is.
And the value of the dollar that you borrowed is going down.
So you are taking advantage of the system as it is.
Yeah. And
Okay?
I think
As long as if you just borrow money in order to consume, you're doomed.
exactly.
Dude.
That's what I was
But
saying.
if you do it to buy gold assets,
Yeah.
now nobody's going to lend you money unless you have collateral. You can have the debt in dollars, but they will want collateral. And what is the collateral?
The gold in the ground.
You have. We were in Zimbabwe
Mm-hmm.
with a mining company,
Mm-hmm.
and we just were given just concessions. You can get concessions for nothing. All over Africa.
Whatever concession.
And
What is a concession?
we invested $500,000 in doing what is known as proven reserves. Proven reserves is you do a 3-level. So it's one you have probable,
Mm-hmm.
probable, possible, and proven.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on there is gold is with the 1 point. If you do 2 points, you know that there is a line here, 2 dimensions. If you do 3 points and 3 points, you know the size of the ore.
Mm-hmm.
So you can prove,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more costly, obviously. We did all that. We had our concession was granted to us for 20 years for the value of $150,000.
You spent $500,000.
Plus the $500,000 that we have to invest ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in the prospecting. So it's plus the personnel and everything is about $1 million. The total ore was $2 billion. Now, nobody has created these gold mining, because in mining, you know everything. You know how much it costs the production. Okay? The only thing that is unsettling is the politics.
Mm.
But the price, the actual excavation, is so completely studied
Mm-hmm.
that any geologist can tell you, once you have the proven reserves, depending on the availability of water, transportation, mountainous area, depth of the ore, you can determine almost to the detail with maybe 10 plus minus 10% the cost of the thing. Deduct all the thing and multiply by 2. The ore, the value of the ore is so much bigger that you can borrow money as with that as collateral. Collateral, it doesn't mean that you sell it to them. With that as collateral, and you borrow money as much as you can humanly can in order to buy more and to develop the industry.
Period. Understood.
So this is what is a. You believe in this shit? Okay, we take advantage of it.
Do we do the same for uranium and oil?
Excuse me?
Do we do the same for uranium and oil in Burkina Faso?
Yeah, except with gold, you have an advantage that you have the key to. You cannot make uranium.
You can't make coins. Yeah.
But coin,
yeah.
You can make coins, and you can make it a medium of payment, knowing that will have a spectacular effect on the price of gold. Because the price of gold today is determined by the demand, and the demand is investment.
Yeah.
But the investment demand in relation to the monetary demand, I mean, how much money you can save a month? Okay, whatever. How much money you spend? The whole thing.
Exactly.
If it's what 20, 50 times more.
Yes.
If you put that into gold, it's like kind of goes to the roof.
Exactly.
Plus, some people don't save at all.
Yeah.
And while everybody spends.
Right. And now the spending is going to be without inflation and all of these other benefits.
So Africa can find all the money. All you have to do is you have to create a financial asset based on how do you call it? Securitized.
Yeah. Now, if we get offered
the ore.
Yeah. If we get offered,
and then I'm telling you, you don't need the kufar. Just you soak all the dollars from the Muslim world.
I was going to say, if we get offered the loan for the mining from an Islamic bank and from Chase Bank, which one do we choose? Whichever gives us the better interest rate?
Yeah, you take it.
Okay. It doesn't matter. There's no benefit.
The key of the matter is you have an enormous, the value of the ore is 50 to 100 to 1,000 times the value of the investment.
Got it.
Now, the problem of that is that the money goes into little bits and pieces.
Right.
So when you count for the security, you have to take into account production levels, etc., etc. But still, we've done the mathematics of this. It's all in your favor, but by fundamental.
Yeah.
Look, when you buy a house,
the main
when
issue
you buy
is
a house,
politics.
you can buy a house without even being built,
Right.
just on the basis of the prospect.
Yep.
All you need is to create that authority. It could be your bank. It could be the Goldex Bank. I call this strategy Goldex. Back 20 years ago, when I was in with Zimbabwe, you can create a Goldex Bank that is specialized in your own bank. And then you do it in a manner that is logical for you. But you will have assets way in excess of the liabilities. And that's what allows you to borrow. Banks borrow too.
Of course.
Okay? And all the dollars that they are circulating in the Muslim world, you strap them. You give them benefits better than anything else, and they are contributing to something. It will be far more Islamic being haram than the Islamic banks, because we are contributing to the wealth of Africa. And that means you don't have to throw the dollars back. You can just invest them in the creation of more gold mining. Because what do you want? You want to activate mining as quick as humanly possible.
Yeah. Before they have a chance to do
this is
anything.
this is your money income. The mining. And then you can see Norway, for example, was a piece of rubbish. It was a no-go country, in the middle of the Arctic, but they discovered oil. Now they did something incredibly clever. Is that that instead of allowing foreign companies to deal with the matter, they dig it themselves. They create the skills themselves so they could multiply. You can create engineers, you can create geologists from among our people. That they can go and they can be entrepreneurial in the development of things. And you pay zakat also. There is zakat in gold.
In Norway.
In gold mining. Unlike the Saudis who refuse to accept mining has a 10% zakat.
Right.
And you pay your zakat, which means good for the people. And you have gold. Africa is blessed with it. Okay, and with this, I'm trying to say is that this you will never see. There is no alim that is going to come with the Goldex strategy. It's only the person who is on the move.
Yeah.
You move and you understand.
Because they're
And what
Puritans.
you have to do is that when somebody says no to you, instead of saying how stupid and how idiots they are, try to understand what they're saying no. And which it will allow you to comprehend better what are the real needs and confusions and preoccupations of the people who are ruling, who are the people you want to speak to. Okay, you cannot go there and say no income when they are desperate to obtain income. Is try to answer that question alongside with the solutions. And for example, the creation of wealth is public markets. Public markets is like one of the first decisions that you make, but you do it on account of nationalize the banks. You have all the credit in the world. The government doesn't have any problem. You still create inflation. But if you dedicate 90% of the money that you create to create of infrastructure, assets, you can still give the government 10% of the money that you create, financing them, not crazy, but a little bit,
keep them going,
and still operate.
Yeah.
Such as, for example, the Bank of Switzerland. You heard me speaking about the Bank of Switzerland here and there. See how they do it. 90% of the money that they are generated in Swiss francs, it goes into assets. Except what they call assets is shares in the United States companies. I don't consider that assets, because if there is a fall down, you have nothing.
But they also
But if you create markets and guilds and infrastructure and machinery, you are developing your country.
Factories.
And you have assets on the ground that are helping your people to industrialize.
Yes.
And if you can do that with 90%, you can still give 10% for the needs of the government to help them, because they need to
pay the
but
army.
you move into this direction, and you do it gradually.
Right.
You say, we're not going to move into that. We're going to, we want 10%. You're now obtaining everything for yourself. You nationalize all the banks. You have all the credit at your disposal. Okay? 10% of all the credit of the nation is far more that the 10% of the money that the central bank generates.
Now, I have a question here. They might say 10% is not enough. And one of the reasons they might say that is because they might want to spend more developing their militaries. Because these three countries are the first risk militarily and political risk that they're going to have is that the enemies of this process will pay off one of the surrounding countries to try to invade.
Oh, yes.
So they're going to need to have extremely fortified.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Military.
So 10% might not be enough if they need to.
Of all the credit.
All the credit, right.
You see, the key point is, in today's economy, even when the government wants to benefit from the creation of new money, the central bank benefits from, creates the money supply one.
Right.
Which is the bills and the coins.
Yes.
They get 10% of this.
Yes.
They don't get 10% of the credit that the commercial banks create, which happens to be 95% of the total amount of circulation. If you now centralize, you understand?
Yes.
Then 10% is a lot more. Okay? But it gives the government now access to wealth in order to where do the banks, the commercial banks, dedicate the money? Mostly housing, mortgages. 80% of business today is mortgaging.
Right.
And then the rest of the things the stock exchange is what they call the casino economy. You
We
cut
don't need
all that
any of
off.
that. Exactly.
And you dedicate all the credit of the nation, instead of to benefit individuals, to only create WACF, common property.
Yeah.
Common property. So these assets go back to the central bank. Eventually, the central bank will have more assets, like it happens with the Bank of England, with the Swiss bank. They have more assets than any other bank in Europe. When the moment comes, then you transform it into sovereign fund. And it becomes a WACF of the nation, like Abu Dhabi Investment Fund. It becomes a sovereign fund. The central bank becomes a sovereign fund. At that point, the needs of the government are already attended. You don't need anymore to print money to fund the government.
You're done.
It's done. At that point, you have gold and silver only. But you have already created all the infrastructure of public markets, transport, roads, etc., that links the public markets, guilds, and everything that follows.
High-speed rail, everything. Yeah.
Okay, that's what you have to understand. But you have to understand it so well that nobody knows better than you, including me. And I'm going to testing you. You have to know better than anybody. So in other words, if you want to help somebody from drowning, you have to become a master swimmer. Not just a swimmer, a master swimmer.
Carry them on your back, swim faster.
You have to be so good that when somebody comes with an answer, you immediately understand. You can solve this problem by this and this and this. You have to have it at hand.
Yes.
But then you become the most important person in the world. Africa will be too small for you. It's the world, because you have a wisdom and this. And where does it come from? It becomes stronger and more majestic on account of you disappearing from the planet and trusting what Allah says. And then you will understand that there's not one single iota of the commands of Allah that they are not for the benefit of mankind. Even the ones that we don't understand. It's such a level of perfection that only God can do something like this. I mean, just reading the two transactions in one and all these things, it's impossible for mankind to figure this out. No way on earth somebody can understand it. Only God can give the wisdom of these people. And they elaborate it, and they understood it, and they master it to the degrees that, for example, when you read even Rushd, it goes to details that they are unnecessary in my view. Because as long as you understand the fundamentals, Maliki fiqh will say, understand the fundamentals, and then if there is any exception of an exception, send it to the Qadi. Let the Qadi administer, organizing the matter. Instead of complicating the law, refer to the Qadi. So this is what you have, and what you have in your hand is as always, you are a clever man, for God's sake. You can earn your living like without blinking an eye. You know exactly what to do. You can move. Anybody, you sell yourself to the people who have authority, businessman, and you will get a job immediately, because they will be fools not to hire you. You already got that, but you have always that choice. You know where to fall to. But do something in the name of Allah where the reward is bigger than anything that you can imagine.
Yeah, I don't think I need a job. I'm just
And
gonna.
that's it.
Yeah.
And the people who understand this, they chose, and they chose the right thing. And these are the people. And you are in a splendid condition to be precisely that person. You have everything, including your Arabic. You know how valuable it's going to be. It's going to be so, so important. Perfected, because Arabic is not just chatting.
Yeah, that's why I'm moving to Egypt.
You can see that
Yeah.
Yasser is doing a fantastic work.
Yeah.
In the last month that you have been out, Yasser has been. We have been working on the question of the ACL, but with the question of ACL, a lot of things can unfold, and realizing that Arabic language has deteriorated,
Exactly.
and there are certain things we don't understand anymore.
Yeah.
And you will understand dinar and dirham in a manner that when you say it in Arabic, I had to say it in English, but you will say it in Arabic.
Right.
Arabs will say, wow. No, they will.
It's true.
And I will tell you, they will, not because you have a powerful argument. Okay, when I started...
Because they worship Arabic.
When I started, it will take me about 30 minutes to convince anyone that gold is the currency of the world, of the free world. Then I could do it in 15 minutes. Then I could do it in 2. Then I said, can I do it in 30 seconds? And I could do it in 30 seconds. And one day, I was in Indonesia, and I was about to meet with the person who had been the ex-minister of finance of Indonesia, and I belonged to a group called Muhammadiyah, one of the 12 people that I want them to approve the minting of the gold dinar. It's an organization of 35 million Muslims. 35 million, bigger than Belgium. And I went to the meeting, and the person who brought me there, he said, be careful, he's super secular. And then I was in my hotel, and as I usually do, I said, Turkas, and I said, I'm in your hands. Okay, this money is important. It's in your hands. And to show you that in my hands, I'm not going to speak in this meeting. I'm not going to open my mouth. I said, because you are better than me. And I took total majesty. Silence is majesty. And I went to the meeting, I didn't open my mouth. And the man was like, started talking. And the first thing that he started saying is, the gold dinar and the silver dirham are the currency of Islam. My friend was freaking out. I'm telling you, it is the truth. It's like your presence, they don't allow them. Islamic bankers don't ever say to me, except for one exception, never say to me, Islamic banking is halal. Not if I'm present. I'm saying, no. And they go, oh shit, he knows. They suddenly realize, because I don't move. And so this is power, and it will take you anywhere. And so it's like, but don't be greedy. Don't beg for a meeting. Don't beg, listen to this. Don't beg for a meeting. You are higher than the person that you're speaking to. You are higher. Just knock at the door. But just. Okay? If he says yes, alhamdulillah, you go ahead and you kind of bang onto the door with your fist. If you don't, you just move with the same easiness as before. Because the power belongs to Allah. He will tell you where you think this man is good is not good. This man you think is not good is good. Okay? Trust Allah in all this matter. And then you can go anywhere. All right, let's pray now. Yes.